All right, hello everybody. Welcome to UK CORRAL, the podcast that reviews every single comic ever written by a British writer. I'm your co-host, Mike-EL, and as always, I'm joined by Adam-Antium.
Zoom.
And of course, Nice Man.
Nicer than ever.
And Nice Man, before we started recording, you were talking about how you busted this comic open and it felt like you were reading it for the first time. And I agree with you. I bought this when it came out in, 1997? Oh my gosh. I remember what I was doing in 1997. And this certainly feels like reading it for the first time. I mean, oh my gosh, we're aging ourselves. That was 29 years ago.
Yeah, so we're covering Flash 130, 131, and 132, right?
Yep, you got it.
And I didn't have to bust it out. It's just sitting in one of my long boxes.
Well, you took it out.
Yeah, because otherwise people might think I had it slabbed.
Oh, I see. Okay. No, I don't have comics slabbed either.
Yeah, I don't have anything slabbed, much to the great horror of a friend of mine who wheels and deals in comic books, who simply cannot believe that I've never slabbed anything. And then I make him even more horrified when I say, I'm sorry, but in my heart, it's just like a 25-cent comic book or something, or in this case, $1.75.
I agree.
So anyway, yeah, I sat down in the basement, cat on my lap, and I had just opened a box by chance, and there it was, Flash 130, 131, 132. And when I read them, I thought, wow, I haven't read them since I first bought them 29 years ago. So it was like absolutely like I just bought it now, like it's new. And it was great. I really enjoyed that.
Now, I want to know something crazy. If you were to read a comic in 1997 from the same gap, it would have been from 1968.
Yes.
Just at the tail end of the Silver Age. Isn't that crazy?
It could have been 1997, and we could have been doing something similar to this. And that meant I would have been reading for the first time in 29 years, maybe a Steranko Shield.
There you go, yeah.
Interesting.
So anyway, yes. So this little run by Grant Morrison and Mark Millar was a kind of stopgap while Mark Waid took a break from the Flash. He had a very long run on the Flash, probably the longest of any modern writer. And I actually at one point owned every issue of the Flash by Mark Waid, but I've since sold them. I did think they were good, but not as good as these.
I'm sorry. What did you just say?
What do you mean? What did I just say? Which part?
I'm sorry. I've got a scratch record. I didn't what? What did you say?
I think you said you didn't think they were good. I think you may have misspoken, Mike.
I didn't think the Mark Waid comics were as good as these.
No, I'm sorry. I have to leave the podcast right now.
Okay.
I have to go and lie down.
So hold on. So let's just clarify. Mark Waid is one of my favorite writers. Is he also one of your favorite writers?
Much of the time, and I like to name drop occasionally. He was my editor on Amazing Heroes.
Wait, hold on. You're a man of many surprises, and all of the stories you've told us. Have you ever mentioned that you wrote for Amazing Heroes?
I've got too many boasts to keep track of, and I've got nothing to boast about, really.
I also have to point out that I owned many issues of Amazing Heroes that Mark Waid edited, and that's where I first came across him. So what was your...
Do you have the one with the Marvel miniseries, the Fallen Angels? Do you have that one? They're on the cover.
I don't remember that. No.
Do you still have them?
I had them, and I just recently sold them, like a year ago. Yeah. How many issues? So, what were you, a reviewer?
Yes, reviewer and previewer, which was great because then I got to, speak to and meet various pros. There was a whole range of titles to review and preview. The highlight for me was hanging out at with Howard Chaykin at his house in Hollywood.
What? I think we talked about this. Yeah.
we were talking. Yeah, we were discussing Black Kiss.
Wow.
But that cover story. I mean, Mark Waid asked me to do Fallen Angels, which I can't say I had any great interest in, but
Sure.
I did my best.
Sure. Sure. And how? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking of the corny title I came up with, and I'm surprised he kept it.
Which was what?
Fallen Angels, Rising Stars, question mark.
Hmm.
Bit corny. No, but anyway, it was a lot of fun, especially you get to, do the like holiday ones as well, preview this.
Sure.
Review
So
that.
how many years did you work on it?
Just probably for a couple, I think, before I left California, because I was living in California.
Wow.
So Frank Plowright, a friend of mine from England, who has a company Slings and Arrows. He did 2 decades of comics, and then it was updated. It's a tremendous volume reviewing just about every comic published. And he came to visit, and we drove out to I forget where Fantagraphics was located exactly. So then, Kim Thompson and Gary Groth were there, of course, and
Wow.
Frank was already doing some reviews and previews, and then they asked me to do some as well, and I did, and I don't know why Mark Waid particularly asked me. Maybe he had nobody else to do it. He asked me to do the Fallen Angels, and I don't really know why they made that the cover story either, but they did. Anyway, Mark Waid's Flash is for me the definitive Flash.
And one last question: what was it like working for him? What was he like?
Who? Mark Waid?
Mark Waid. Yep.
He couldn't have been nicer.
Okay.
Very supportive, very understanding. Like, I think that what I finally turned into him was a little bit shorter than he expected it was going to be. And I remember thinking to myself, well, frankly, I don't think there's anything else to write about them.
Right.
But, I didn't say that. And he was fine about it. He didn't say, this is supposed to be a lot like, no. He couldn't have been nicer. And then, I met him more than a few times. Like here, I live in Ohio these days, and he used to come regularly to the Mid-Ohio Con, and I think even to the Dayton Con, the local one. And, so that was good.
Very cool. Very cool. Sorry, I just realized my mic is not plugged in as usual. I'm just going to plug it in here. But that's okay. We don't have to. I just need you to say that whole story again from scratch. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's talk about The Flash. Adam, had you read this story before this week?
No, in fact, I haven't read any even of Wade's material on The Flash.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
And he was just a character I never gravitated towards for one reason or another. Odd, because as a child, I loved the 1990s Flash TV series, yet opportunity never struck. So I'm glad I'm able to get into this run at this point. And a very interesting point, Mike, I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems to have been part of this mandate in DC Comics in the mid-90s where every superhero was getting a revised costume and power set.
Yeah, probably, yes, but I don't think this was part of that. But now that you bring it up, we had Superman, Electric Blue, we had Batman / Azrael, we had Wonder Woman, Artemis, we had Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner, Hawkman with the glider wings. So you're right, they were all being updated, but
Aquaman with the hook from the severed hand. Yeah.
So, and you realize Jim Shooter was not editor-in-chief of DC in the 90s.
It was just a coincidence.
They did what he, supposedly did, back in the 80s at Marvel.
But to be fair, this updated costume we're going to see only lasted this story. As far as I know, I don't think it went any further than this. I think it was just a coincidence.
So just before we go on, if you don't mind, first of all, what's your nickname?
Adam-Antium.
Adam-Antium. Yeah,
yes,
let me not screw it up. Mr. Adam-Antium. You have to read Mark Waid's Flash, and you have to read it from his first issue. From his first issue, He does for Flash what Alan Moore did for Swamp Thing. He completely nails it from the first issue, and you can't miss each succeeding issue. You can't. It's tremendous. I mean, I used to read Flash regularly when I was 4 years old. You know, the Carmine Infantino Flash. And I loved it. When I was a little kid, that costume, the name, I loved it, you know, along with Green Lantern. But then, you know, after I was like 6, 7 years old, I never had any particular interest in Flash. But then I did when they did Crisis, and, you know, Mike Baron did the post-Crisis. And that was quite good. But it really, no, Mark Waid he is the definitive Flash writer, born to write Flash. Flash is in his heart and in his soul. You cannot possibly go through this life and into the next one without having read Mark Waid's Flash.
Well, I'm going to take you up on that because I do really enjoy Waid's writing. I've always enjoyed whatever I've stumbled across of his. It's kind of bizarre considering the acumen that he has and the sort of seminal nature of his run on Flash. I've never gotten around to it, but things might change. But we're not talking about Mr. Waid tonight, though. We're talking about two other conspicuous people from the UK, Mr. I think we pronounce it Millar, and then the great Grant Morrison.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
I already have my first trick question for you.
What's that?
We're reviewing Flash 130, 131, 132. Okay. What does it say? What does it say on the cover? No, I don't mean Speeding to an Emergency Stop, Part 1 of 3. What else does it say on the cover besides the Flash?
It says Paul Ryan and John Nyberg.
Yeah.
No, I mean it says Grant Morrison, Mark Millar, right?
Yep.
4 names, right?
Yep.
Okay. I know we're reviewing 130 to 132. What does it say on the cover of 133?
I don't know. What does it say?
It says Mark Millar, Grant Morrison, Paul Ryan. So the difference, you see the difference?
They switched the order.
Why?
I don't know. Do you know?
Because 130 to 132 is Grant Morrison steering the ship.
Okay.
And showing Mark Millar, this is how you do it.
Okay.
133 is Grant Morrison saying to Mark Millar, okay, you take the wheel.
Okay.
You know, it's a seemingly little thing, but I think a hugely significant thing.
Well, and we're going to find out because then I did notice on the third arc, it's just Mark Millar.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Grant Morrison's not listed at all on the third?
Right.
Wow, I should have paid attention to that.
Yeah,
just took it for granted.
There you go. Okay, so let's talk about this one, and then in a few weeks we'll talk about the next one. But anyway, that's a surprise. Okay, so how about we'll take turns? I'll do the first one. Adam, you can do the second one. How about that? And then Paul can do the third one. If
As
I can
always,
remember.
we try.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt again. Can we go back to the cover?
Okay, let's talk about this cover by Steve Lytle.
Steve Lytle is was a great artist.
Yes.
And a great cover artist. However,
one of the best.
I don't like this cover. Why not?
Why? That's a good question. Why not?
Meanwhile, I've got the German Shepherd sound effects, because look how muscular Flash is. This is not Flash. You can't do this. He's not Flash on steroids. He's not muscle bound.
I mean, to me, he's fit because he's constantly running and burning calories. So he would have the body of a marathon runner, right?
Yeah, he's not going to have any fat. But for me, this undermines the character. Flash has to be sleek, smooth, not muscle bound. You know, in the 90s, my God, did everybody have to be muscle bound?
Oh, I'm going to interject here only because, again, I did mention how I guess my childhood introduction to The Flash would have been the Flash TV series from the 1990s, which had gone on to become a cult favorite. And John Wesley Shipp, as playing Barry Allen, was quite a muscular fellow. Like, I think his physique really did, I think, evoke not so much a lean, but a more muscle-bound, broader Flash. And
Yes,
this evokes that for me. So
it's
I don't see
true.
an incongruity. I get
Well,
what you're saying, but this is, I guess, the nostalgia lenses coming up. I actually appreciate this, maybe because it's that slight evocation of Ship in the role of the Flash.
it's true. And when I watched that TV show, it was when was it?
1990
1990.
through 1991.
Right, and I remember seeing the very first episode, and I thought, no, they've padded him. They've got this outfit on him with it's got all these muscles bulging. No, that's not the Flash. Sorry.
It was not perfect, far from perfect. The show from 10 years ago was much better.
Mike, hot take, completely disagree.
Wow. Okay, well, let's save that discussion for another time, maybe on an episode of Taped Crusaders.
Ooh.
But we've got 3 comic books to talk about on UK Corral. And I'm going to do my best to remember the plot of part 1 of this story, okay? And feel free to jump in with any feedback as we go along, okay? Or any comments or any criticisms from Paul. Anyway, okay, so so anyway,
We call somebody out, Mike.
yeah,
Wow.
we open up with a jailbreak by a character called the Suit, and to my knowledge, this is his first appearance. Maybe Nice Man has better knowledge of that than me.
I wasn't sure if it
Okay.
was or not. It seems like such a typical kind of Grant Morrison kind of villain. And then
Right.
later on in the backstory, I thought there was a possibility that he'd already appeared somewhere else.
I mean,
But
we
we'll
could do
find out.
research, but we don't. Yeah, we don't do that
We'll
here.
find
Okay, yeah, and then we cut over to a nice kind of like not montage, but a sequence where we're seeing lightning, a trail go through a bunch of parts of the Earth that are drastically far apart until the reveal that it's actually Wally West with his girlfriend Linda Park just taking her kind of sightseeing around the world. And then they end up in India at the Taj Mahal. Then we cut over to what I call a classic Silver Age splash page where we are teased with this great twist where Jay Garrick, the original Flash, and Max Mercury come across the dead body of Wally West, the Flash. And he's got a note pinned to him, and it says, "Dear Flash, you have 60 minutes to solve your own murder, the Suit." And that's a callback to the type of tantalizing, splash page you'd have in the Silver Age. And I love it. So then, basically, they decide, okay, well, we've got an hour. We got to figure out what's going on. Let's get started. Oh, and by the way, by the time they get the note, they've only got 40 minutes. So the clock is already ticking. We cut over to Wally and Linda in bed. And Max and Flash tell him, okay, you better get up. We got a situation here. They run down to the morgue, the Keystone City morgue, and they see Wally's body. And then already Wally's like, oh, geez, okay, now we've only got a half hour. Okay, let's figure this out. We cut over to, which villain is this? This is, the Fashioneer. Another character I've not heard about, but he is real, right? He's like a previous character, right, Paul, I think?
I'm still not entirely sure.
He might even be a Golden Age villain, but I'm not sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's chatting with the Suit, and the Suit is basically threatening him, and then he decides to... So what it is the Suit, as we kind of find out, is able to take over people's bodies. So the Suit takes over the body of the Fashioneer, kills him, and now the Suit is controlling the old Fashioneer's body. So then we cut over to the origin of the Suit, and we get kind of like a little flashback here, and we find out that the Suit is a character that was electrocuted, and then the actual Suit from the character called the Suit was thrown into, what is this called, like an incinerator.
Yeah.
But the Suit was not destroyed. After it was buried, it came back to life and broke back into the jail. And so the Flash, this is being narrated by what character again? This is Double Negative. another character I'm not familiar with. And he basically says, well, maybe this is jail folklore. Maybe it's true. Maybe he's a ghost. We don't know. But at least now the Flash, and Max Mercury kind of know what they're dealing with. So then they take off and they go on their way. And then what happens is Flash, Wally West, gets a plan. And this is where it gets a little Grant Morrisonian, okay? So it gets a little tricky, but he comes up with a plan, and what he does is try and follow me here because I'm trying to follow myself. He freezes himself in space, but the Earth continues to rotate at 400 miles per hour. So then what happens is because of that, he appears to be dead. And then the act of doing that produces the corpse that they had found earlier in the morgue, correct?
Right.
Right, Adam?
I think so.
Yes, I know, because it kind of doesn't make sense, because then where's the other one? But okay. So then, because the corpse that they found is the Flash back in time, frozen, now he can wake up and continue his plan. So then what he does, and Grant Morrison, I'm assuming this is his idea. He's actually explaining it. He actually explains it right here. I counter-vibrate my past self's molecular structure, sending it into a brief coma state. Now he'll be the slowest man alive until the shock wears off, and we wake up a few moments ago in the morgue. I love this stuff. Okay, I've made it look like as though the explosion killed me. I've bought myself the last hour and given myself a headache just thinking about this stuff. Pseudoscience, that's okay. But here's the thing, as with any great story, the plan does not go according to plan. While the Flash is trying to do this, he gets hit in the head by a piece of debris, a rock, and he gets knocked out. He falls over, and then the suit comes over, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing, because then the suit, he actually sends him an hour into the past. So this is where it gets confusing, because is the Flash of the past the one that Wally created, or this one? I don't really know. Max Mercury and Jay Garrick come across Wally West in his Flash costume on the ground, and now we have a new twist. His legs are broken. And that is the cliffhanger ending of part 1 of this story. And I love it. It is a classic Silver Age type plot, something Grant Morrison specializes in. There's a few Morrisonian moments of crazy pseudoscience that I already talked about. As far as Mark Millar's direct influence, I don't see it just yet, but there will be some in the next few chapters. But since I have just reread Mark Millar's Superman Adventures run, I know that he can do Silver Age superhero fun really well, and I think that's a good example. This is a good example of that, and I really liked it. And Adam-Antium, I'd like to know what you thought.
I did appreciate the Silver Age evocations. Even just breaking it up into the 3 separate chapters was also a subtle touch for that I really appreciated. The suit himself, or itself, I guess you should say, as a villain is interesting. The costume design itself, I don't think is anything too exceptional. I think actually the gauntlets are a little bit corny, but as a living suit, as an entity that possesses people, it's an interesting concept as a villain for Flash. And I feel it's almost hard for me to give a complete assessment of this issue because it really is just the starting point for what's going to be this 3-issue arc. It's intriguing. Time travel narratives often give me a headache for this exact reason. I do appreciate sometimes when it gets so absurd that you can't even make heads or tails of it. I think I wish that was a little bit more the case, or maybe there was another conceit for what led the Flash to break his legs from the final panel of the issue rather than some convoluted time travel story. But with that said, though, it's an intriguing setup, and what happens to the fastest man alive when he can no longer run? Great idea.
One more thing before we jump to Nice Man. What did you think of the art by Paul Ryan and John Nyberg?
Oh yeah, my apologies. I haven't even touched upon it. I'm not the biggest fan of this style of art. I will say though, for this style, and I'm failing to even describe exactly what the style is, it is very evocative of the era which it comes from, that mid to late 90s period. There is a great amount of detailing, which I do appreciate, especially this panel that Mike is displaying, not only in the panel layout, but the brickwork being detailed as well. There is a number of sequences where you could easily, if this was a lesser artist, just have kind of gradient backgrounds without much detail added, but there's always a sense of an environment around these characters. So I should also mention I do love the expressiveness of the bodies. I think Jay, for example, here, the apparent shock that he's displaying here from his thrown out arms and his kind of hunched over posture is a good example of how dynamic the art's made. And when you have a character that's constantly moving like the Flash, you need an artist that can convey that kineticness. So even though it's not my favorite style of comic art, I thought it was done very well, and I appreciated what it was doing in the narrative.
I will say that I'm a huge fan of Paul Ryan because of Quasar.
Okay, would make sense.
Yep. But he was never as good as he was on those early issues. And even though the inker, I think it was Danny Bulinati, he did follow him to Fantastic Four, but that was not as good. This is not as good. And I think it's because he needs an inker that's gonna almost add like a Kurt Swanish, Murphy Anderson softness, feathering to the art. And this feels a little bit too 90s, a little bit too flat. But if you look beneath the inks, you can see that the art's very clear and very classic style, I think. But to the naked eye, it's kind of unremarkable, but clear. And with that being said, now I want to jump to Nice Man, because he was very, when I announced this comic, he was not as excited about reading it as I was.
Only because of Mark Millar.
Okay.
Because typically I love Grant Morrison.
Right, this is true. As do I.
And it interested me to see how much is Grant Morrison, how much is Mark Millar. In many ways, I really enjoyed it because it's a throwback to this classic '60s stuff.
Right.
Set up a how could this be? Set up a puzzle. It makes you think. Because DC Comics in the '60s were typically all about that, as opposed to characterization. Marvel was focusing on the whatever soap opera they could get in, especially from Stan Lee. Soap opera and comedy is his thing, whereas just kind of clever, sometimes gimmicky stories were from DC, but without characterization. But anyway, when the stories are this kind of clever, I mean, you don't mind about the characterization, but there was characterization in here because Grant Morrison's a very good writer. Grant Morrison can do clever and characterization. So I really enjoyed it from that because it was a throwback to the '60s, and I'm sure Grant Morrison had a great time doing it. Now with Paul Ryan, I thought, what? When I look at certain pages, I think he's really excellent. In many ways, Paul Ryan was an excellent artist, but in other ways, I don't like it. And so I asked myself, well, then how can this be? Is he good or is he not good? Is he good? Yes, he's good. Well, then at times you don't like it. Why don't you like it? And I thought, well, for sure, when you look at his panels, like this one with they're discovering the apparently dead Flash, that's really nicely done. The angle, the body positions, the detail, everything. And even the one you began with the panels just showing lightning going across the various international scenes, that's really nice. I mean, I don't know anyone who could really have done much better than that. That's really nicely done. But in the end, I feel like Paul Ryan's a bit of a Jim Shooter artist because sometimes it's like things get sacrificed for the sake of clarity. Because yes, we have to be clear, but you need a balance, clarity and flair. Jim Shooter didn't like Gene Colan, of course, because he had so much flair. Jim Shooter is give me more meat and potatoes. So I see that Paul Ryan is a very good artist, very good in many ways. I see that he tells the story really well. Everything is absolutely clear, and the renditions are good. However, for me, I don't like his panel layouts. You know,
Okay.
Flash should be about movement. And I thought, well, what artist can really show movement? Well, Carmine Infantino, of course, Neil Adams, George Perez, some panel arrangement that flows, you know, that kind of reflects the Flash, kind of something imaginative with panels that reflect the Flash, because it's got to flow. But too many of these panels are like static. What I don't mean the content, I mean the positioning, like squares, rectangles. There's never a kind of flourish. I think a really imaginative artist could come in with some kind of flourish, you know? I mean, Marshall Rogers, maybe? I would almost like to have seen that. So that's my problem. He's good, definitely good, tells the story fine, and he's very accomplished, but the panel layouts are a bit too boring for me. And in Jim Shooter fashion, unless I'm really mistaken, too many mid-level shots, you know?
You know, it's interesting. I don't want to name drop or anything, but I met Paul Ryan, and he actually said that when Grant Morrison took over the book, he wanted to fire Paul Ryan and replace him with a British artist.
I wonder which one.
I don't know, but this was, I mean, I met Paul Ryan in the 90s, so this is going, I don't know if he had a name in mind. I don't know, but who knows who it would have been, right?
I'm trying to think of various British artists. I mean, like, not, for example, Dave Gibbons. That's not the right.
Well, if you think about who Grant Morrison was working with at the time, it could have been someone like Steve Yowell.
But Steve Yowell wouldn't. I don't think so either.
Right, I agree.
But on Animal Man, did he have? No, Brian Bolland wasn't really doing sequential stuff.
No.
Gary Leach. I mean, Gary Leach was too slow. Great.
I would have loved Gary Leach, but yeah.
Huh. So did Paul Ryan take it? Did Paul Ryan take it personally, or it was just?
I think he took. I don't know. When I met Paul Ryan, he seemed a little bit bitter, but not just about the Flash, but about things in general. He was kind of a little bit crotchety, a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
But he was nice to me, my friends. You know, he was just, you know, whatever.
Well, he did a good job considering it's Grant Morrison.
I also have to say this might have been right at the time that he was being fired from Marvel. But, you know, remember the whole Heroes Reborn thing?
Yeah.
Where Marvel just fired their entire Avengers, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America creative team. Fantastic Four, and wiped them out, replaced them with, they gave it to Image. So this was right when that was happening. So I met Paul Ryan, William Messner Loebs, Mark Waid, I can't remember who else, but basically all those guys, I think it was in Chicago, just as this was exploding or imploding at Marvel. So anyway, but we got more Flash to talk about, so we'll talk more about that another time. Okay, so Adam, would you like to do part 2?
I will do part 2 under duress.
All right.
Yes, I will. I just want to say I do like the contrast of this cover with the previous one. You have that first issue of the arc that has that bright background and Flash coming towards you. Here, he's receded into the background instead. His casted foot is prominent up front. I do appreciate that. Not my favorite rendering necessarily, but conceptually, I really do like this as a cover, especially in contrast to the previous issue.
It's a very British cover, don't you think?
Yes. I think the moodiness of it.
Yeah, because it's the kind of theatrical thing you might expect from like Sam Slade, Robo Hunter or something. It's taking something and upending it completely. Flash is the fastest man alive. Okay, I'm going to break his legs and put him in a wheelchair.
Smart.
Absolutely. So again, I love the concept of it. We start with Flash, of course, thinking about how he's the fastest man on Earth, talking about all his abilities, and then he's coming up against a wall because this happens to be a dream where he has to make an emergency stop, of course, and this is where he awakens, and in his civilian's getup, he looks down to see the cast on his leg, and he basically reflects on what had happened along with the Flash family that's surrounding him in this war room that he's inhabiting. So in addition to some of the previous characters that were there, like Max Mercury, we also have a character called Impulse. And is Impulse the same as Kid Flash? I'm not quite sure, Mike.
No, I don't want to sound like I'm the Flash expert because I'm sure Paul is, but Impulse is the future descendant of Wally West, I believe, right? His name is Bart Allen.
Yeah.
So he
Okay.
comes from the future, comes back to our timeline and becomes Impulse. Kid Flash is Wally West. Wally West used to be Kid Flash to Barry Allen.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. History, that's good. So as the Flash contingency is discussing what they're going to do about the suit, we then cut over to the suit itself, having fully desiccated its host. And this is a very macabre, very horrific image of this skeletal figure inside of the suit as it's pursuing a police officer on a motorcycle, which will then be his next host or his next victim as a parasite. Of course, these sort of symbiotic or parasitic suits were a very popular trend in the 1990s. Name any number of different comic characters that had that, but that had that sort of trope. But this is a fascinating take where the suit is almost like a vampire feeding off of these different characters that it's inhabiting. And so this lends a sort of horrific element to it. It's more of a horror monster that the Flash family has to face in this regard. Anyway, Linda gets a call, and it turns out that, yes, it looks like the suit has possessed a highway patrolman. So Flash gives his costume to Jay with this idea that they're going to basically trick the suit into thinking that the Flash is actually not only has he not perished, but he's up and able to continue fighting him. So at the bridge where the suit is approaching, there is Bart Allen, the Flash, but it's actually Impulse.
And you can, I got to point out the attention to detail here of clearly diminutive stature here, right? With Impulse.
And that's great too.
Quite funny.
The suit's sagging on him a little bit. It's like a child wearing his dad's clothes for pretend. I do love that element.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. And again, the sort of pseudo-scientific thing that happens so often with the Flash, he can vibrate his body so quickly, the very atoms vibrate and accelerate, and this causes the bridge to collapse and explode. So the suit is flung from the motorcycle over to the River Quay, where on the shore, he's about to continue battling the Flash as he's just saying to himself, the Flash is dead, the Flash is dead, as if he can't believe this enemy of his somehow survived his perfect plan. There's a little exposition between Linda and the Flash just about what it's like for him to recover, and he's thinking about the Speed Force. If he could somehow contact the energy field that gives him those powers of super speed to condense part of the Speed Force around him, could that do something to accelerate his healing or perhaps even give him some sort of super speed armor? He's considering it, and he's basically sitting in meditation as Linda leaves him alone as he's contemplating what he'll do. Anyway, we cut back to the fight, and now we have someone else wearing the Flash costume. I believe this is Jay at this point. Yes, and he's doing a very traditional Silver Age sort of attack where he's propelling his arm so quickly he's causing a huge wave of, as it's described, a micro tsunami to splash onto the suit. And then Jay passes the suit on to Max Mercury, who is the next one to do battle with the suit. It's just a very interesting concept where the suit doesn't know who to fight. He can't really grasp the strategies of how to deal with all these different attacks since everyone is attacking him in a different way. And he still has the emotional uncertainty of having thought he killed the Flash only for him to be assailed by the superhero. Now, what happens very cleverly is that Max throws the Flash costume at the suit, and as the suit's distracted by this, all of the super speedsters converge into a big boom and attack the suit. Now, afterwards, Jay and Impulse think they may have managed to destroy the suit, but they haven't. Unfortunately, Max has been possessed by it. And as we hear through these very interestingly curved dialogue bubbles, I'm on full power, Max is gone, there's only me. As we see that very bold declaration with this look of horror and sadness and torture basically on the face of Max Mercury. A really great contrast. I love that element of this comic. So with the super speedster under its thrall, the suit makes its way out to maximum security prison, holding a number of supervillains with the idea of causing a mass escape. We do get a brief glimpse at the Flash back at his home, and it looks like he has tapped into the Speed Force. There is a gold light enveloping him. That cuts right back to the Max possessed, or the suit possessed Max, then going over to the super security prison to bust out these supervillains. He's being distracted and waylaid by the other Flashes. Well, the Golden Age Flash and then Impulse. But he manages to best them and actually tricking Impulse to vibrate his body so much so he does not die after being flung at the wall of the prison. He actually causes an explosion that has the wall open, and here is a bevy of supervillains all ready to escape, armed to the teeth with gear and guns. A little bit bizarre that they happen to have that at the ready. I wasn't quite clear on that.
Right.
But then we see a number of some, for me, recognizable villains. Other ones I would be hard-pressed to identify. Regardless, though, now the suit has released his prison inmates. Now the battle can commence. But at this point, while there's about to be this grand standoff where Jay is going to take on this entire horde of escaped prisoners, a hand lands on his shoulder. He looks back to see something. We don't quite see it yet because we have a shot of the suit giving some big speech to his villain compatriots saying, we're going to take over Keystone City. All you have to do is feed me. So this is his ploy. He wants to have hosts to continue feeding him. So this is part of the process of why he's actually getting these prisoners to escape. But his big speech is interrupted by, okay, enough's enough, erupting from behind him. And he looks back, and there is the Flash in his new golden Speed Force costume or Speed Force armor, whatever you want to call it. I do love how right underneath this costume, and I think this gives my feelings about it, it says the next issue is titled Fashion Victims.
Yeah. I love the titles they give. They're spot on. Yeah, Fashion Victims, great. Isn't that a great page, by the way, by Paul Ryan? Of
course, yes.
Classic. I mean, Grant Morrison surely was not unhappy with this, surely.
Right, I agree with you there. I also, as we were going through these pages, I noticed this is my favorite page in the whole issue. In the foreground, we have the suit holding the Flash's suit. But then we have, look at this panel of boom, boom, boom. The three speedsters coming in to point your eye at the two here. Then we see a big explosion contrast at the bottom, framed by the tree and the legs here. And then we just have kind of a regular panel at the bottom. But I just love this page. It's a great composition. Yeah. Anyway, I really enjoyed this issue. Again, more Silver Age fun. The theme of them using their own Flash suits to trick the suit. That's great right there. That's superhero fun, if you ask me. Yeah, I loved everything here. The fact that they brought in Bart Allen, that was clever. Again, using their wits to trick the villain, not just brute strength, right? It's a great Silver Age story. Nice, man. What did you think?
Same as you. I really enjoyed it. The art's a bit crammed, but maybe that might have been the fault of Morrison and Miller more than Paul Ryan, you know.
Okay.
Because especially if they did a full script, you see, that's a whole yet another debate. I don't understand the fascination with full scripts, like as if that's the only true way it can be done. I mean, if I were an artist, I wouldn't want somebody giving me a full script, telling me what to do, how many panels I'm going to have on the page, and this is in panel 1 and this is panel, because otherwise, the writer's not the artist. The artist has to pace it visually. The artist knows what space is available, and then he has to say, oh, go on this page, I got to have panel 1 this, panel 2 that, panel 3 this, 4, anyway. Well, it looks a bit crowded, doesn't it?
I have to just counterpoint you there or counter you. To me, when they say full script, they just mean action dialogue, like a screenplay. Whereas a Stan Lee script is phone call saying, have Spider-Man fight the Rhino. So just a minute, wait. A full script is a fully dialogued script with action. Howard Chaykin said he would never work on a script that wasn't full script. But what you're describing is what Alan Moore does, which is in panel 1, there's a character sitting on a park bench, with a bird on a tree. That's the extreme of, a detailed script. And then I think somewhere in between is where everyone else falls. But I personally, I'm just going to say one more thing. Your favorite writer and mine, Alan Moore, that is exactly how he writes. Mm-hmm. And I know that another favorite writer of ours, Grant Morrison, goes to the level of, because I've talked to, I think it was Cameron Stewart or one of those guys who basically said that he would tell him, in this panel, I want you to make Batman look like that issue from 1959 where he has the pink costume. And so he would give very, very detailed references of how to draw everything. And to be honest, I actually totally disagree. I think it should be the writer that decides all that. That's just me, though.
But I think that you can't use Stan Lee as an example because Stan Lee didn't write stuff apart from provide, this is how it begins, this is how it ends. But Archie Goodwin said that doing the Marvel way can be very serendipitous because you give the plot and then you see what spin the artist puts on it. Of course, it doesn't always work out right, because maybe the artist hasn't included something that's vital. Right. And has included something that's really not important, or you've got a close up on somebody turning a doorknob, But,
right.
But no, I can't imagine. Like when I worked in advertising, with my friends were the art people manipulating the computers. No, we would always sit and talk about what we were going to do. Then they would go away and prepare the visual. Then they would come back and tell me, this is how many words. This is the space for a headline. This is how many words. And then I would write the words to fit. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want somebody telling me, because for me, my understanding of full script is they tell you page by page, panel 1 this, panel 2 this, panel 3 this, panel 4 this. I would, as the artist, I'd say, don't tell me how many panels to do. Just tell me the plot. And if it doesn't seem right to just give a general plot, because you need things to be sure that this is included, whatever, then you can do a page-by-page plot. This is what Steve Englehart used to do with Gene Colan, a page-by-page plot.
Sure. To
make sure they didn't run out of time. With somebody else, of course, it depends on the artist. But all again, to come back to this issue, I like it, but it just seems a bit cluttered. I don't like clutter. And this seems a bit cluttered.
Like this page we're looking at has a lot of text on it. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that too. But what can Paul Ryan do? I mean, if he's being told you've got to have this many panels, you've got to do that, So I don't know. I mean, if we were having conversation with Grant Morrison, Mark Millar, and then I guess they would tell us more. But anyway, overall, I enjoyed it. I like this kind of bunch that break out of the prison. They remind me of like an updated Brotherhood of Evil Mutants or something.
Sure.
Who knows where they got that gun from? But still, it's a very kind of Kirby style, isn't it? That gun.
Yeah, I could see that.
Perspective on it. Yeah. Very, very enjoyable. And the suit is, for me, a typical Grant Morrison villain. He's not interested in the most kind of conventional villains. He likes the off kilter villains, and the suit certainly is it, because it doesn't exist. It's a suit,
Yeah.
It envelops people. So who's the villain here? Where the hell's the villain? Yeah, very enjoyable. Very enjoyable.
Speaking of suits, though, what's everyone's take on this new Flash costume?
Oh, it was great because it's for the story.
Yeah, I don't want it to replace his suit, but as fill-in suits go, I like the tribute to the Kid Flash costume here with the hair showing, and I like that. And it's kind of a play on the Flash because it's all energy, but you still see the lightning pattern here. That's kind of cool. So yeah, I think as a temporary suit, it's fine. What do you think, Adamantium?
I don't really care for it.
Okay.
I mean, the homage of the Kid Flash element with the goggles and the kind of wingspan on the side of the head, I don't mind, but I don't know. It's this one complete color piece. It reminds me so much of the blue Superman, the blue lightning Superman that they had, which was also, it just seemed such a, I don't know how to describe it, a homogeneous looking costume. There was nothing really much to it to break it up. I do think some of the best costumes have elements which will disperse it. Even the Flash having the lightning patterns going across his boots and his gloves help that. I don't know. To me, if you're seeing someone come into a new costume, there should be something about it that makes it seem important or vital. And this just seems...
But Adam,
it's a more generic costume.
Is this really a costume?
Yes.
No, I don't regard it. I don't regard it. He's managing to tap into the Force, Speed Force, which is always very handy. And this is a Speed Force covering. Even the rendition here, it doesn't look like a regular costume. It's got that sheen. It's got a great sheen to it. You know, it doesn't look like a costume. It looks like a temporary covering, which it is. It's the Speed Force. So
I just feel there's nothing that creative about the design of it. I would have liked something a little bit more kinetic. Maybe if like parts of the costume almost appeared to always be moving because it just couldn't stand still. Regardless, though, I'm not here to say what I would have done instead, just that, unfortunately, maybe it's just the bad evocation of all those horrible 90s revision costumes that were made for heroes at that point, but I just don't really care for it that much.
Alrighty then.
All right, on that note, let's jump to our final chapter, and Nice Man, you're going to summarize this one?
Well, we'll try. So starting with there's another Steve Lytle cover, but it's very striking, the full face of the Flash going at speed, great speed. But interestingly here, Adam, he's got the regular Flash costume on. So much for the last panel of the last issue.
But I think this was a theme month where if you'll notice there's a different logo. I think every DC cover this month had a big close-up of a person's face, the hero's face.
I hate those theme things.
I love them. Anyway.
They're also monotonous. All right, let's go.
Anyway.
And if necessary, you can help me. So all right, so everybody's looking up at him in shock, like holy crap. Even his allies, Impulse and what's his name, Jay Garrick. Even they are looking at him like, what the hell? And everybody is this new kind of like Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, not that they are, and the suit which is has enveloped Max Mercury. So then we get a double page spread. Is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Fashion victims. I like it. So I believe the suit is going after Wally, but Wally's able to move at speed, of course, because he's all got the Speed Force, which is really propelling him. Because after all, don't forget, his legs are broken. So
true.
This shows you the power of the Force. Okay. And so then he's a bit too fast for the suit, and then he explains things to Jay, and what Jay tells him, like what's going on. They did a little chat about the costume, the new costume, what's holding it up, Speed Force, and okay. But then we have to move on because the bad guys are all kind of breaking out. What's going to happen to them? Now Wally can give a little of the Force into Jay. He just touches him and bestows like Peter Pan, like being covered in fairy dust from Tinkerbell. So now Jay suddenly finds he's got some Speed Force power in him. So that's good. And then, but the suit is now moving fast because after all he inhabits max mercury, so the suit can also move at great speed. And he's fashioned all these kind of wooden stakes. It's almost like he's in search of vampires to shove the stakes through their hearts, but it's not that. He's fashioned the wooden stakes, and Jay and Wally speed into action. And then the battle is joined, but when the suit tosses all these spears of wood, these stakes at Wally, he's able to vibrate so that actually they pass through him.
Yep. Because he says, when I vibrate my entire molecular structure through solid objects, something interesting happens. I atomize them.
Yes. Yes. Very good. Well done, Wally. So anyway, but Max is coming after him. It's not really Max, it's the suit, but it is Max. And now Wally is able to, he vibrates, doesn't he again? He hits, that's right. He gives a little of the speed force to the suit, to Max, which causes the suit to be, out of control. And so Wally knows that since the suit is out of control, he runs in the opposite direction at great speed to await the arrival of the suit, who can't control his acceleration. So he's gone to another part of the world to wait for the suit's arrival. Meanwhile, Impulse and Jay gives some of the speed force to Impulse, who also really enjoys it. And now Jay and Impulse have got that extra boost of power to deal with the bad guys at the prison. And then they take care of that.
I gotta say, there's one line in here that's so obviously written by Mark Millar.
Oh yeah?
And yeah, it's somebody, one of the bad guys says, does anyone know where the other Flash is? And someone says, yeah, I've got his stupid hat. That's so obviously written by Mark Millar, right?
I guess
and then of
so.
course, yeah, and it just because of the way that Mark Millar treated Gold and Silver Age tropes when he was doing Ultimates, I can only guess it was him. But anyway, then in this scene that we were just talking about, Impulse brings him back his hat here, or he's about to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, it's fine. But moving on. So they've mopped up the bad guys, and Impulse gives back the hat, team hat to Jay Garrick. And moving on. So now what is I like it. It says, with the speed force enveloping him, it feels warm and alive. It's like taking a bath at light speed. And at this point, before I forget, I want to say I think we should appreciate Mike Baron's contribution, because post-crisis, Mike Baron did Flash #1 and a certain number of issues, and he established from that first issue, we don't need pesky thought balloons or expository speech. I'm just going to do first-person narration. And I think that works really well, really well. It doesn't slow the art down or anything, and you feel like you're inside Wally's head, which is great. I enjoy that.
I agree.
So now it's time. The suit, Max Mercury and Wally are now on collision course, and they get close. But then the suit pulls a trick by whipping up. What does it say? Whipping up a wave front, and it affects Barry. Oh my God, Barry! No, it affects Wally. So that I think, what does it do? It kind of like dematerializes some of his costume.
It says the costume is calculated, trying to adapt what's left of its shape to protect me from the fall. Still doesn't stop me from looking like a moron. Great line.
Probably Mark Millar. And then, so the suit has done well here because it's caused Wally to crash. And now he's in a very vulnerable position. But of course, we've got to get out of this somehow. And so Wally, not surprisingly, starts appealing to Max, because after all, Max is in there somewhere. And so Max then struggles from within to fight the suit, and that messes the suit up. right? Right.
Yes.
And that causes not just enough time for Wally to get in there. And what does he do? He does something
Okay. Yeah.
to cause Max and the suit to separate.
He throws a single grain of sand,
Yes.
severing the fabric of the suit, and then
Right.
grabs a thread to unravel it.
Right. Which is
there you go.
Yeah. See, we see the thread here, but I'm not going to say it's confusing, but it's not obvious. But that's what he's done. He's literally unraveled his entire suit and just tossed it aside. And then here in this panel, we see it in the foreground.
Right. So the suit is literally unraveled. And of course, this ties into fashion victims.
Right.
It's not a good look, this unraveling
Uh-huh.
of the suit. So then, Max and Wally meet up with Jay, and then they learn that Impulse is having a great time at the prison with everybody. But still, the suit comes one more time, this time leaping for Jay.
Right. And so we're all worried now that, oh no, now he's going to do to Jay what he did to Max Mercury.
Right, because he's got Jay, and Jay is older and not as strong as Max Mercury. So, but Jay tries to resist. But it looks like, curtains, really. But Jay is able to get out. How is Jay able to get out?
Well, he's not. Basically, the Flash teases the suit. He says, "You don't want that. You want me. You want the real power." And so, of course, it's through an act of hubris, the suit decides of course, that's right. I do want your power. So he abandons Jay and he takes over the body of the Flash.
That's right. The fastest man alive with nowhere to run. Good line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then the other three get together. Well, Impulse and Max Mercury helping Jay. Meanwhile, the battle's really going on now because the suit is trying to absorb Wally and his Speed Force. And then it looks like that's going to be it, that now the suit has got Wally. That's a prime achievement. But Wally comes up with, as he says, starts shaking. He starts shaking from inside. Remember, when I vibrate my molecular structure through solid objects, I atomize them. So he vibrated from inside the suit to basically atomize the suit, and the suit is blown to smithereens.
I love it. And then I love how he says, absorbed into endless lightning of the Speed Force, or something like that. It's hard to describe this kind of stuff sometimes. I love that.
Yes. Yeah. You see, these are nice touches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which other writers wouldn't have done. They would have just said it's absorbed into the Speed Force. But, they always remember these, especially Grant Morrison, these little touches. But now Wally's legs are starting to hurt because, after all, the danger is over and it's time to kind of collapse. All right. So Impulse would like to keep some of the Speed Force, but I don't know that he can. Wally at least is able to get back to Linda. But then also in classic, like 60s style, the happy Wally approaches Linda, only to find that she's speaking, her words are back to front, in reverse. And immediately you know what it means, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we all know, right? Just as soon as you read that, how could she be speaking her words back to front in reverse? And she seems to be moving backwards, and Wally can't reach her. Why? Because there's a Scottish intruder in the house. And I'm sure Grant Morrison and Mark Millar couldn't wait to do the coming story, because it's the Scottish Mirror Master.
Yes. Who he used in Animal Man to great effect. Oh, I love it. Yes. Of course, I love this issue. I love just about everything about it. I love him explaining his power and then using it to clever effect later on. Once again, using his smarts and using his knowledge of science to beat the villain. The only thing... Oh, and I also love that ending with the Mirror Master. The only thing I didn't like, and I've never liked this, I do not actually like the idea of the Speed Force, and I don't like the idea of a hero being able to share his power. That to me really undermines the uniqueness of each superhero and each character.
What is it about the Speed Force that you don't care for?
I don't like the name Speed Force. If it was called like something else, like I don't know what, but something, maybe that would help. But I just don't think we need a. It's kind of a post Alan Moore thing. You know, Alan Moore came up with the green and the red and all that. It seems like every writer they try to rationalize things a little bit too much and maybe make them a little bit too. I don't want to say mystical, but I don't know. It just seems like it's an unnecessary explanation. I'd rather just know that Flash runs fast and that's it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But anyway, Adam-Antium, what do you think?
I had mixed feelings about this issue.
Okay.
I think it's echoing kind of the point you made, not liking when characters extend their powers to others. There's a lot of tropes in this I did not much care for, like Flash telling Max Mercury, "Oh, you just have to fight it, Max. You can do it." It's such a cliche to have, your pep talk to suddenly take over or battle against mind control or something like that.
Right.
Almost as much as it is to say, no, don't take him, take me instead, and that be the villain's undoing. Because, granted, just because something's a cliche doesn't mean it's not effective. Sometimes cliches are cliche for a reason, but I just didn't really care for the battle that took place. I thought the Suit was a very intriguing villain, and the best issue of this arc was the second one, undoubtedly, because then we saw the threat that he posed and what he was capable of, especially absorbing the body of Max Mercury. But after that, he just became another speedster villain for the Flash to fight. Nothing too noteworthy for me. There were some corny dialogue exchanges I didn't care for in this one either, which I was a bit surprised about with who it was coming from. But, I chalked that up maybe more to Miller than Morrison's writing. With that said, I felt like the best ideas were taken in the first and second issue of the arc. I just felt in the end it was a resolution for the sake of, let's get this out of the way with so we can actually deal with the character we want to deal with, Mirror Master. Which, granted, I love Mirror Master. I would love any excuse to have that character in a Flash story, but no, I guess in the end, between the new costume, the sort of cliche, feeling like there was no real stakes, and nothing too creative about this particular issue, I felt like it wasn't so much a letdown, but just kind of a whimpering climax for what was otherwise a pretty promising story arc.
I think at one time Grant Morrison commented about his own work that very often his stories kind of peter out.
It's true. It's true.
So
he said
maybe,
that, yeah.
but however, as comics go, these three issues, that's good comics entertainment. It's good. The writing is good enough. The art is good enough, and each issue was worth the dollar. How much was it? $1.75.
Something like dollar. Let's find out here. Oh, where's the price? It doesn't matter. Around $1. But I gotta say, yeah. And the other thing I'll add to that is that I've just been rereading Grant Morrison's Invisibles and stuff like that, and it's nice to read a comic that's not only it's good, but it's also not. It's straight ahead superheroes. It's not trying to deconstruct superheroes. It's not trying to be ironic. It's just a well-made superhero comic that a kid could enjoy or an adult could enjoy, I think.
A bit tough for a kid to follow the plot, I think.
Maybe.
I mean, it's tough for us to try and figure out, wait a second, he's dead, he's not dead, who's that on the stab?
I think a kid would still enjoy trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a throwback to like the Flash I read as a very young kid,
Yeah.
So it was very worthy. I certainly enjoy this much more than Hellblazer, and much more than what else don't I like particularly? What did Neil Gaiman do? Yeah,
Anyway,
you know, it's enjoyable. It's good comics entertainment. This is, even now, if I went to the store and I saw this, I would get it.
Me too.
As long as it wasn't too expensive.
Now, I have one final question. When was the last time you read Mark Waid's Flash run?
Oh, I don't know, and I still have some missing issues.
Because I had the whole run and I just sold it. Whole run.
Should have. Well, no, I wouldn't need the whole run, but
Okay.
I need some Grant Morrison issues as well.
Ooh, okay.
Of the 12 months. Yeah, I'll get them at some point. But you know, as I said, from the very first issue, because William Messner-Loeb's not a bad writer at all.
Right.
You know, Mike Barron, not a bad writer. But as soon as Mark Waid did his first issue, it's like bullseye.
Agree.
Bullseye.
Yeah. And it's cool, Adam, because you can start. I think his first storyline was the Flash Year One, right? Born to Run.
Yes.
I think so. So yeah, you can start right there.
All right on. Thank you for teaching me a little bit. I'll get some Flash education.
Some Flash facts. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
so
what's
ahead,
next? I get. Are you any guesses?
do I need my vomit cup? Tell me.
Get your vomit cup ready. I don't know if you're gonna need though, because next week we're gonna be talking about Miracle Man Book 3, the final arc of Alan Moore's groundbreaking superhero deconstruction. What do you think, Adam-Antium? You excited?
Very.
Awesome. Alan Moore, John Totleben. Again, this is my favorite superhero comic from when I was a kid, so I'm looking very forward to this. I want to thank Adam-Antium and Nice Man for joining me for a little Silver Age throwback here with The Flash by Grant Morrison and Mark Millar. There'll be more Flash coming, very soon in the next few months. But until then, all of our episodes are available at comicbooksyndicate.com and youtube.com. And until the next time, see you later.